Hello, everybody, and happy Wednesday. It is Wednesday, isn't it? I feel like at the moment, because things are so different and we're in lockdown, that I'm totally losing track of days, but I'm pretty sure it is Wednesday today. I hope you've all had a great day, you're having a good start to your day, and you're safe wherever you are. So, I'm switching things up a bit for the live today. On a Wednesday, I normally do my workshops. The workshop will happen on Friday because today I'm really lucky that I get to talk to somebody who I love working with. He's absolutely fantastic. He's Bruce Durham. He's awesome. Bruce, he coaches celebrities, athletes, all sorts of people, mums, dads, people who've got very high level corporate jobs and people in the public eye. And he basically enables them to be the best version of themselves. And tonight we're going to be talking about a really important topic, which is the fear of public speaking. But before we go into that, I'll obviously let Bruce introduce himself because he'll be much better at it than I am. So Bruce, over to you.
Hi there, everybody. Yeah, so I am Bruce Durham. Really glad to be joining you tonight just to share some of the learning and education that I've accumulated and shared over the past 20 years as well. So yeah, going to be bringing some of this stuff that I've talked about in the past, which is performance psychology, a little bit of anxiety as well, but also we'll be discussing stories and narratives, which some of you may not have delved into before, but are very prominent and are very powerful as one of the main reasons why people have a fear of public speaking. So yes, I've got my own YouTube channel, Believe in Bruce, here, where we talk about everything from performance psychology, anything to do with the head and the heart, as you can see behind me. That's what we do. So if you want to follow, join me on there, please do. But tonight is all about helping Ray and her team out here to do some fantastic stuff. Worked with them for a number of years now. They've developed some cracking videos for me, really powerful, really engaging. But they've also helped me with my public speaking as well. So hopefully tonight I can return the favour to them.
Thank you, Bruce. And we're sharing the love here because, guys, you've got to check out Bruce's YouTube page. It's brilliant. It's really good. It's not only is it really insightful, but it's really entertaining too. So go over to his YouTube page. I'll link it below when I post this video onto the timeline so that you can see it. Take a look. So to get us started, Bruce, I was saying to you when we were having a little chat before we started the live, one of the most common things that people contact me about is their fear of public speaking. So they tend to get themselves into a very negative mindset where people are saying, I'm not very good at this, I don't think I can do it. And in particular, a real fear about what other people will think of them. What tips would you give them to deal with those fears?
Well, first of all, what I would like to say is it's absolutely normal to have that feeling. All right, that's where we've got to start from. We've got to get our level of awareness to a state where we, first of all, can accept the fact that we're humans, that we've got heads and hearts, that we are going to feel, we'll feel sad, we'll feel joyous, we'll feel positive, we'll feel negative, all the thing that is beautifully human. So we've got to, first of all, become aware that we are going to feel certain emotions in different situations. And one of the things that I give across to my clients is the fact that you've got to accept what you are. All right. Quite often we'll see somebody on stage and we'll look at them and we'll judge ourselves against them, or we'll compare ourselves to the person on the right compared to the person on the left. And what we have got to do, one of the steps that enables us to become a better version of ourselves, a more confident version of ourselves, is that to get used to how we are and how we react in certain situations and get to know your own body. So first of all, it's generally around awareness, to become aware that when you go into these certain situations, that you feel certain ways. Now, for example, me, I'm an introvert, all right? I love speaking to the camera. Although my job, I speak to, hundreds, if not into the thousands of 1,500 people is the highest number that I have ever spoke to. But when I speak, although I get good feedback, before I speak, I still get these certain feelings that people associate with negativity. But I know from doing it that actually I embrace this. It's about, getting to know how your body reacts in that situation. And rather than trying to fight it, or change these feelings, It's about saying, okay, this is me. This is the authentic version of me. This is how I react in this situation where I'm going to speak. And, getting used to that and embracing it as a positive rather than a negative. Now, when somebody prepares for a speech, and again, I'm passionate about this, so if any time you want to interject and ask another question, please do. But one of the things that we'll come up with is a narrative, all right, a story. And this tends to be even, way before, for some people, when they get the email, Bruce, I will need you to do a presentation in a month's time. And you're going to present to, it could be the chief executive officer, it could be the financial director, it could be anybody, it could be anybody. But as soon as you get that bit of information, it affects the brain. All right, it affects the brain. And if you're okay with this, Ray, what I'll do is just explain a little bit about what happens to the brain, because knowledge dispels fear. All right, so what we've done is we've detected a threat. That threat being an email coming through or someone just pulling you to the side and saying, Bruce, I need you to do a presentation on this particular date about this subject. Now, what happens is that there's a part of the brain at the front called the thalamus, all right, the thalamus. So I'm explaining this to you so you can, when you feel those emotions, you can say, hey, Bruce has explained this to me. I'm meant to be feeling this. I'm not a weak person. I'm not a negative person. I'm not, I haven't got that self-doubt. What I'm doing is absolutely beautifully human. But that thalamus is almost like, when you go to New York, possibly not at the moment, but when you go across to New York and you see these traffic wardens, and they've got the white gloves on and they've got the whistles and they're doing all this dancing and they're directing the traffic. This is exactly like that. This is what the thalamus is like. The thalamus detects external stimuli and it sort of processes some type of knowledge, some information, if you will. And it'll direct it to two areas, the cortex or the amygdala, all right? Now, if the amygdala, which is the seat of fear, this is where our emotion, the fear is stored, the fight, flight, or freeze response, this is where it all happens, or this is the central location to it, is that if you're telling yourself a negative story, the amygdala will pick that, that signal up, and it takes over the rational side of the brain from the cortex. So it's a bit like when you open a door and someone's standing behind it and they shout boo. You see all these pranks on YouTube. In that split second, you have like an autonomous reaction where you jump in panic, which is the amygdala. It's the amygdala taking over. But then the cortex starts rationalizing based on the data. Oh, it's just my friend. They've played a prank on me. And you start coming down to your emotional baseline. But when you get this request to do a public presentation, that thalamus picks it up, it passes it to the amygdala. The amygdala sends a signal across to the hypothalamus. This is where the hormone regulation, it talks to the pituitary gland. The pituitary gland talks straight away to the adrenal glands. The adrenal glands start producing adrenaline, you start stressing, and that's why you feel the way you do. That's the sort of system, the sympathetic nervous system. And that's how that runs within the body. It's a very generic overview, okay? A very generic overview. But across here, we've got that sympathetic nervous system, but we've also got the parasympathetic nervous system. Now, this is the part that actually helps us come back down to our emotional baseline. It sort of works against all of those knee-jerk reactions or fearful reactions. And that's what I want to talk about on this show tonight. The ability to actually zone in on your parasympathetic nervous system by being more in control of your thoughts and your feelings will help you, not just in public speaking, because it's anxiety, it's fear. Regardless whether it's fear of public speaking, fear of spiders, fear of the dark, fear of fear. All right, it's a fear. That's what it is. So one of the ways that you can start doing this is, first of all, one, accepting yourself. Accept that you feel those certain ways. But then also, there's a game that I play with my clients called the F or the E game. All right, the F or the E game. Now, what this stands for is fact or emotion. Is it factual? Is it emotional? And it is so easy to do. So what you'll do is you'll get, now, I haven't done this, but effectively you get a blank bit of paper, a line down the middle, F, E. F on one side, E on the other. And based on the stories that you're telling yourself at that particular time, so the emails come through, you need to do a presentation. Your brain at that moment could start whirring away. So what I would implore you to do is just create a space, one blank bit of paper, one simple line down in the middle, F on one side, E or the other. And what we're going to do with the F or the E game is that you get your thoughts out of your head onto that bit of paper in those two columns. And what you do is you write down the stories that you're telling yourself. It may be, I'm not, I'm boring. Nobody will be interested. I'm terrible at whatever. It may be, I'm fantastic. It could be the polar opposite. And what you do is you start putting them in the columns, like which one here is factually, word for word correct, that I have got evidence to back it up, that nobody could argue with this. It would stand up in a court of law. And if it is so factually correct, nobody could argue with it, and it would stand up in a court of law, you'd put that in the F column because it's factual. Word for word, it's correct. It's got no cracks in it. Everything else would go into the E column for emotion, for the stories that you're telling yourself. And every single client that I work with, based on anxiety, fear of public speaking, fear of whatever it is, you've got like maybe, if you're lucky, one thing in the F, and even that's very, very rare. But what you have got is a whole load of stories in the E column that you're making up inside your head. And one of the sorry, go for that, Ray.
I was just thinking, I'm totally agreed with that. I think when I'm the same when I speak to people that are very nervous, and when I work with them, so much of the build up is the story about themselves that they've created that I don't see in front of me at all. I'm like, that I don't see that. I don't see this person that you have told yourself that you are when you're on stage. So yeah, I totally experience the same thing.
It is. And you know what? For us, like I might be scared of spiders. You might be scared of thunder. I don't know. Yeah. But for that person, that fear is very real, Ray. It's very real. And sometimes what we can do that's unhelpful is us who's not feeling the fear, we can brush it off. Oh, you'll be fine. You're brilliant. You don't look like that. But for them, it's like, no, this is real. I am going to be terrible at this. And I'm just keeping this in the context of fear of public speaking, But by taking that little bit of paper and writing down what is facts, what is emotion, then what you've done is first of all, you've created a space to challenge your thoughts. That's one of the most powerful steps you can take in order to start actually giving yourself different choices about how you perform when you're public speaking. To become aware of your thoughts is like the T-junction that a lot of people miss. Because what we will do is we will create this narrative in our head that we will start adding bits to. Yeah, heuristic bias, subconscious bias, conscious bias. We'll take little snippets of information. Like you may have got a round of applause off the whole audience when you last stood up and talked, but there was one person who yawned, 3/4 of the way through that presentation. So what you do is you forget about everybody stood up and give you a public ovation. And your whole fear, your whole story is based on when that one person yawned. That one person could be like, me, got 2 young children. He or she might have not had a good sleep that night, but no, that yawn made, was 100% was an indicator that you were boring. And that, that's what we can do as human beings. So that F or the E game just allows you to stop, to pause, and to ponder about what you're thinking. All right. And what we're doing is we're taking ourselves from the red to the amber back to the green. That's where we want to operate in. It's called an individual zone of optimized performance from a psychological perspective, is that we've all got an area where we perform, where we are the best versions of ourselves. And by coming back down that traffic light system, coming back down the ladder, by that little tool, just the F or the E, this works globally. You know that I've worked all over the world. And everybody can do with that little space just to think, all right, what am I thinking? And let's actually put it down so I can see what I'm thinking. Right now, I'm aware that if not all of it is just made up in my head. All right, that's the first stage. But then what we do is we look at different options. So, for example, labeling. I don't know, Ray, if you've ever covered labeling before, but labeling is such a powerful thing. When you give something a name. Oh, yeah. Hurricane Katrina. You know, it was just, you know, it was a big gust of wind, but now it's Hurricane Katrina. It's like when we label stuff, it becomes something. It becomes real. You know, I could almost pick it up and grab it. It's here. So what we do is generally we will associate when we, you know, are going to do some type of public speaking, we will associate ourselves with a word that we view negatively or society views negatively, such as I feel anxious. Is that something that your clients have shared with you before? That, you know, I feel anxiety, I feel anxious.
Oh, absolutely, Bruce. I mean, this is everything that you're saying is stuff that I deal with when I'm working with people and that we've talked about on this page. I think what's great is, you know, we're talking about some of the science there behind it. So
Yeah.
for people watching this who are fearful, it's good because I think, as you say, a lot of people think that it's something that just they themselves are feeling, but so many people feel this way. And as you said as well, I mean, I enjoy performing. I come from a performance background, but I still get nervous. Like I still get that feeling, even before
Yeah.
I do a live like this, before I do anything. Before when I mean, you know, Tom, the cameraman that I work with, before I film a video, when he says, "Right, we're filming," I can feel that nervous energy. But the
Yeah.
difference is, and it's funny there what you were saying about how we name these things. For me, I look at my nervous energy as like my rudder, my petrol, my petroleum that just is what I need to like excel me to do a great job. So
Yeah.
I view it in a positive way, but I
Uh,
did view it in a negative way when I was much younger, you know, when I used to get really nervous
for
about
sure.
performing.
And I think even there, if I can offer you something, Ray, and again, it's about finding out what works for the individual. That's the key here. We're all different. We all react differently in situations. Yes, there will be some commonalities, but there's also some massive differences as well. And whether, you know, whatever it is, you are beautifully you, and that is something that I want to try and, you know, and raise awareness of here. But when you know, we talk about labeling, what I would like to offer to the people watching is that instead of calling it nervous energy, call it performance energy.
Mm.
Yeah, trying to call it performance energy. Like when
Yeah.
I speak, so, and I'll tell you why. So when we get ready to perform, the thalamus, the amygdala, yeah, it goes to the hypothalamus, the pituitary gland, the adrenal glands. But also, if you've had, you know, maybe some experiences before in the past that haven't went the way you want them, what we've got a part of the brain called the hippocampus. This is where emotional memory is stored. So all of this like works together. You start convincing yourself that it's not going to work, or you know, it was terrible last time, so it'll be terrible now. And again, these memories that you have need to be addressed, because just because it didn't go the way you wanted it last time, again, you know, as it says here, can I show that? Can you see
Mm,
that?
go
Your
for it.
toughest opponent is inside your own head. That is absolutely true. You'll never meet, you know, a bigger critic than the one inside your own head. And all of these things need to be, you know, just challenged a little bit, you know, explored, massaged, just warmed up. But labeling's definitely, so when I go on to, you know, performing, Ray, you were there when I done it at Siemens. You know,
Yeah.
I'm supposed to be in about 100, let's just say 100 people in that room, yeah? And they were all, you know, it's from senior people, senior managers, etc., from all types of divisions within Siemens, which is a global company.
Yeah.
So when I went up there, you know, it's that sort of like 10, 15, 20 minutes before for me personally. That's when I start to feel my performance energy start to come through. And I'm aware of it. And I don't try to go against it, because I've learned to like look at it in a positive way, just the same way that you said there, because that's what it is. It's your body getting ready to perform. It's your body getting ready to physically do something. So embrace it. It's like, you know, that inner energy saying, hey, I'm here for you. I'm your best friend. We are ready to rock and roll. And instead of feeling it and saying, oh, you know, I shouldn't be feeling this. No, feel it. Embrace it. Actually use it, because your body is ready to rock and roll. Now, interestingly, I'm going to ask you
Yeah.
something. In fact, I'll tell you, because it'll be a little bit better. So, when you are anxious, let's just use that word, all right? And that label that we use, that, you know, the terminology anxious, it's generally associated with negativity. Yeah, anxious is generally not a good feeling to have. This is the way that we talk about it. But when you look at that, the fact that you're anxious, and you ask yourself, okay, well, how is my body reacting here? Well, when you're anxious, possibly your heart starts to beat faster. Your breathing rate will increase. Your palms may go that little bit sweaty. Your mouth may go that little bit dry. All right? That's all the feelings that you get when you're anxious. So let's flip that. And instead of, I say to myself out loud, but also when people ask me about it, so when I'm just about to go and perform on stage, I become excited. I feel really excited. Because what happens when you get excited? What does your body do? Well, your heart rate may increase. You may breathe that little bit faster. Your mouth may go dry. Your palms may go that little bit sweaty.
Yeah.
But just, and the people watching this now, say to yourself, right, if I was to say I feel anxious or I feel excited, which one would make me feel better? If I was to start labeling myself now, the evidence is there,
Yeah, totally. And that's what, I mean, people sometimes get a bit irritated with me when I give them the same, when I talk in this same way to the clients that I'm working with, and I challenge them and say, there's no such thing as nerves. And what I'm trying to do after we have a bit of a conversation is that same thing, to be like, but you need to see it as that energy, that kind of force that makes you do a great job. And I think what I talk about a lot on my page is the more and more you do it, the more and more you stand up, the more and more you experience that adrenaline rush, the more you get used to seeing it as a welcomed energy, but also dealing with it. So being able to deal with the things like, sweaty palms and different things like that. I know one of the things that people struggle with if they're incredibly nervous to begin with, before we start working together, is that whole, the brain's working fast and the body's sort of going into fight or flight mode and getting their words out. So there are things that obviously happen when you're speaking in public, but the more that you practice actually being in that situation and the more you practice welcoming that energy, then you do get to a point where you just don't feel it in a negative way. You get to a point where, for me anyway, I would be more worried now if I didn't feel it. Like if I didn't get that rush, that would concern me now. That if I didn't get that energy.
Yeah, no, and I get that, and it's true. I mean, that is a big part of my job, as you know, standing up in front of hundreds of people that I've never met before and trying to deliver what may be an hour and a half presentation. But that, so I do this on a regular basis. I have done this for the past 10, 15 years. Yeah. And what I would say is that performance energy has never left me. Every single time when I perform, when I go to deliver any type of presentation, even tonight, when I was waiting for you guys to dial in, I got that performance energy because this is my body just getting prepared. But I don't try and fight it, or I don't try and I don't convince myself that I'm a weak individual or I'm not meant for this because that person over there looks really calm and they don't. No, like this is me. And if you can get used to yourself. Play the F or the E game, and that's just creating a space for you to think, for you to bring back conscious awareness to what you're doing. Label yourself excited rather than something like anxious. This is all of the things that you can do to be a better performing version of yourself.
Absolutely, and I think the other thing is what people can tend to people start doing is comparisons. So they might look at somebody and think, they're amazing, they're so good on their feet, they're an awesome presenter, like, oh my God, I want to be like that. And, forgetting the fact that that person is probably experiencing all these things. It's just that they're looking at it as an energy force and not as a negative thing. But also you do get some people who will say things like, I never feel that. I never get nervous. I love this. And I think that is difficult sometimes for people who are feeling that aren't feeling so certain about themselves when they might dare to be honest, because it's quite it's a brave thing to go out there and be like, I am actually really fearful of this thing, whatever that thing is, in this case public speaking, to sometimes be met with somebody saying, well, I never feel it, I love it. You get those people. How do you deal with that situation?
Again, it all comes back with just being authentic with yourself, being in tune with yourself. Some people can run faster than me, some people can jump higher than me, some people can present, but I mean, sometimes I may be part of a full day where there may be 8 or 9 other presenters on there, And I'll be sitting in the audience watching somebody who I find really funny and I think they're a really good presenter. And then I realise, oh, it's me who's up next. I've got to follow them. I've just got to be as funny and stuff. But when when you get more happy, when you get more content with yourself, it just allows your flow to come. So my advice to that question would be, there's always going to be somebody who can do something better than you. There's always going to be somebody who you can do something better. It's really not about them. It's just about you, like we say. It's about you enabling yourself to be the best performing version of you, regardless of anybody else. Nobody else is really important when you're just trying to develop yourself and empower yourself, Ray.
Yeah. Well, we've got quite a few people watching, so welcome everybody. If anyone's got any questions, then please do ask. And the video, as I always say, it will be available afterwards, and you can ask questions below there as well. But I think that's a really good point that we were just talking about there. Is you can't please everyone either. Like sometimes people say to me, but I want to make sure that everyone likes it, that everyone likes me. And I was like, but that can't be the aim of the game. You have to go out there, do a great job, know that you've done a good job as well. But in the same way that you can't be good at everything, you can't please every single person either, because we're all wonderfully different.
Yeah, absolutely. And it is. It's like the old Mother Teresa saying, if you want to change the world, go home and love your family. My wife actually brought that to my head, and I love that. I absolutely love that. And it's so true. It's like, no, don't please everybody. Like, if you can go on the stage and come off with, you're happy with yourself, you know that you've done your best. Yeah, there's always going to be bits and bobs where we can pull, like me with my Newcastle accent. When I listen to my YouTube videos back, sometimes I wish I had a different accent. But I'm happy to flow with that. There's always going to be things you can tweak. But when you come off stage and you're gently, you making you happy should be. I watch my YouTube videos back and I make myself laugh. That's really that's like one of the benefits that I get. I actually watch myself thinking he's a really funny guy. But this is it. It's about being in tune with you being happy, not judging yourself. And again, it takes practice. But just to pick up on one of the points what you said, Ray, is that indeed, just like anything, the more you practice it, the more you jump in the saddle, the more you get on the horse and ride it, the better you're going to become. And this stands exactly the same for fear of public speaking. It's about doing it. Accepting that the first 5, 10, 15, whatever, set yourself many goals, that it may not go as well as you want. But the guarantee is after you've done 30 different public speaking sessions, you will be so much better than if you hadn't done none. That is, that is literally the choice. And again, that's what I do. If I get like a gig or a job or some type of contract where they want me to go in and do some public speaking, I still do that. Like I will practice out loud my pitch verbatim, my presentation, because that's one of the tools that I use. Is like I play the F or the E game with me. I play the I'm going to give myself a different label game with me. But what I also do is I practice it and I go through it again, repetition, 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 until and I actually say it out loud. I've got like a little board here. I will stand in front of the mirror and say it to myself. And I'll practice my one-liners, and that didn't work, or I need to change a few words. But what you're doing is you're giving by putting in the effort, allowing yourself to go through. Then what you're doing is you're giving yourself the best chance of the best, the sort of best performing you standing up on that stage. And that's what some people don't want to do. I mean, I used to work with people who could just get up on a stage and just talk, and it was like brilliant. Natural orators. I could never do that. But again, I'm not that bothered because I've got used to how I operate, what I need to do to, in order to succeed. And just because of my character, and I'm not one of these natural orators, I do need to practice beforehand. So I know that if I practice beforehand, that gets my confidence levels up. That lets me know and actually hear my own voice. There's a good chance that that's going to work. And it's all these little things that you can do just to help you be the best performing version of yourself, Ray.
Yeah, absolutely. And I always say to people, I always get them to imagine it as like a rucksack. Like the more you do it, you get these rucksack of things that work, tips and tricks that you've tried out, that work with different audiences, how to deal with difficult situations. And that gives you an inner confidence as well, the more you do it. And absolutely about practicing. Like, I cannot say that enough. And it's something I talk about on this page all the time, that there are so many people that I work with who, they will come to me because they've had a bad experience on stage. And typically, when I've spoken to them, the first time they said that presentation out loud was when they were on stage in front of 100 people. And, you know, we talk about like what the pressure that you're putting yourself under in that situation. If you're feeling that nervous energy beforehand, that you've never said it out loud. So absolutely about practicing. But we've had a question come in, Bruce, that I want to jump on, because I'm just aware of how long we've been chatting, and this is great. And as I say to everybody, if you have any questions when this goes as a video on the timeline, then just ask them below. But somebody's asked, well, what about when your colleagues say negative things to you? So if your boss isn't happy, for example, how would you deal with that?
I would need to know the specifics, because what somebody hears can be different to what somebody says, Ray. Like, again, I was advising a client today on a certain situation. Something had been put down on an email, and somebody had read it in a totally different way to what had been intended. What I would say is always try for authenticity. You know, it's a level where if somebody says something, make sure first of all that they know what it is that they're talking about. Because again, as humans, we've just got a habit to orate, to just say something. You know, somebody says, "Oh, I didn't like the way that went." Well, okay, so specifically tell me, give me some feedback here. What weren't you happy with? You know, why did it make you feel like this? How, if it was you, how would you rectify it? So actually engage in that conversation to try and get some feedback. That said, all right, you're not going to please everybody. You are not going to please everybody. And it's a bit like TripAdvisor. Yeah, so it's a fine line to walk, is that some people will come up to you and say, "I didn't like that." 99% of the people probably did. It's like 99% of the people, because they enjoyed it and it was fine, and they sort of got the information across, then they didn't need to come on and say, "Hey, that was awesome." So just because somebody says that they didn't like it, I mean, me, myself, when I go into, to discuss clients' issues and to see if I can support them or their employees with the projects that I deliver, a lot of the time I'm talking to senior executives within the organization. And I've had that before where they've said, "Oh, I don't like that." And that's fine, because my response is, well, you don't have to, because this project's aimed at your frontline employees who you're bringing me in to engage with. So actually, you liking it or not, it's not really that important. The whole purpose of my project is that the frontline employees work it, and the evidence shows that they do. So it's a bit of it's obviously a bit of a sort of big question. But my answer would be, without knowing the specifics, engage in some type of dialogue to try and find out why. Ask them how they would improve it if that was them. And again, but also embrace the fact that you're not going to please everybody, nor should you try.
No, I would be exactly the same. And I think you have to really be able to distinguish, the more you do this and the more you put yourself out there, is the difference between feedback and criticism. And I totally agree. I love feedback, and feedback is, so people often ask what's the difference. And to me, criticism is one way. So it might be, "You're fat," for instance. Not you, Bruce, but I'm just saying that would be.
No, go for it.
But feedback is two-way, exactly like you said. So feedback is, "Listen, I've just got some thoughts on that presentation." Okay, great. Oh, let's sit down and chat about it. Like, that is feedback. So there is a difference. So I totally agree. Engage in conversation would be my advice. And when it comes to the boss not being happy, again, Bruce, I agree with what you said. I've experienced that in the past, especially if I'm organizing an event and the boss might say to me, "Well, I'm not happy about that. That's not what I want to include." And I will often go back and say, "But this is not about you. This is about the audience. This is about the people in the room, what we want them to think, feel, and do as a result of being there." And I think if you ever experience criticism from your boss, then that is something that you do have in your pocket. The fact that the aim actually isn't to please that one individual person when it comes to presenting to, say, 1,000 people. The aim is to inspire, educate those people in the room to go out and action. We've had a couple of more questions come in. So one of the questions somebody's touched on, but isn't excitement and fear very similar? Now, we talked about this at the start of this chat, so we did cover that. And yes, absolutely. But Bruce, if you just want to briefly cover that, excitement and fear are very similar, aren't they?
Yeah,
The feeling.
Well, it is exactly the same bodily sensations. It's exactly the same cerebral response. One may be elevated than the other. But what we talked about was actually that, well, the body does the same thing. You know, the faster breaths, the increased heart rate, the increased blood flow around the body. The mouth may go dry, the palms may go sweaty. What you're doing is by labeling yourself, I'm scared, or labeling yourself excited, what you start to do is you start to alter your hormonal regulation here. You start to take the reactions away from the amygdala and you start to put them across to the cortex by changing that label. So rather than keep repeating, oh, I'm scared, I'm scared, I'm scared, which again, that's what the body will be exhibiting. It's exactly the same, but there's more power, there's more empowerment, there's more self-satisfaction, almost giving yourself a cuddle to say, you know what, I feel really excited. Try it. It absolutely works really, really well.
Wicked. Yeah, thank you for that, Bruce. And somebody else has just messaged me in one of the private messages to say, I really want to present in public, but I'm petrified. I don't even dare, what they say, I don't even dare speak out loud, I think is what they mean in that message. How would you say you're in that position where you're you know, you've got your head into such a negative headspace and mindset that you can't even allow yourself to get the words out? Are there any exercises or anything that, you know, could help unravel that?
I mean, yeah, there's a million, you know, and without knowing the individual or their circumstances or their thoughts and feelings that are going on or the narratives that they're playing or why they're playing those narratives, to look at different narratives, you know, it sort of really is a big can of worms, if you will. But again, first step is always become aware that you are telling yourself a story. And the beautiful thing about telling yourself that story, it's a choice. Yeah, it is absolutely, undeniably, unquestionably a choice. You are telling yourself that story, which makes it beautiful because there is a choice, an undeniable choice that you can switch that thinking. Yeah, it's not like a brick wall that is physically there. It may feel that it's there, all right, but a brick wall is physically there. What we're doing here is we need to accept that we are telling ourselves that narrative inside of our head, which means that we can choose to change the words. We can change the chapter. We can amend the chapter. We can put a different ending in because we are choosing to have a negative narrative, and just by some awareness exercises that we can choose to have a more positive. But again, it'll be some maybe cognitive behavioral therapy techniques within there, some awareness, some elevating our own, you've again, you know, sort of self-respect, pride. I've dealt with thousands of people along the sort of fear lines, but without knowing specifically what's going on, I couldn't give some specific advice. But know that you need to become aware that you're telling yourself a story. You're choosing to tell yourself a story, so you can choose to tell yourself another story, but you just might need some little bits of tools and techniques to help you make that step from across here to across here.
Yeah, and I think as well that for me the big message on top of all that is you don't have to be that way. It doesn't have to be that way. You can change that. You know, you have to work on that feeling, and there is some work to do and some unraveling to do. But I promise you, you do not have to be that way, and you can definitely get into a position where you actually, believe it or not, enjoy it.
Or 100%. If you are a person who breathes, which is most of us, yeah, then you can, without a shadow of a doubt, enjoy standing up and presenting. There is no question there. You just need the right tools and techniques in order to enable your journey to go from where you are now to where you want to be. But 100%, without anything, I've got no doubt, every single person can become more confident in that situation. You just need the required steps to, sort of complete that path.
Absolutely. All right, I'm aware that we've been on for quite a while now, so I'm going to stop it there, but there is so much more that I could chat to you about, Bruce. Thank you so much for being here. As I said to everybody at the start of this, go over to Bruce's YouTube channel, Believe in Bruce. It is awesome. Some fantastic insights into body language and stuff, and really entertaining, great content. So thank you so much, Bruce, for joining us. Thank you.
No, thank you for inviting me. I appreciate it.
Excellent. Right, everybody who has joined, thank you for watching. As I always say, ask any more questions down below when this goes onto the Facebook page. On Wednesday, I'm going to be doing a workshop which is all about what to wear when you go on stage or when you present in front of an audience. But until then, stay safe, wash your hands, don't touch your face. And yeah, I look forward to seeing you all on Friday. Thanks for watching.